It's been a while. I've not made a video on here. I've made shorts and reels on my Instagram, but not any like full-length videos for a while. We made it to 1,000 subscribers. Yay, that's exciting. So my business has been put on hold because I haven't gotten any orders. Also because I'm in school now, but I really haven't gotten any orders since like 2021. Not as many as I used to get during the pandemic, and I realized the pandemic helped a lot with the business. Yeah, otherwise I haven't really got that many, so I kind of just slowed it down a little bit. I've been getting a few custom orders here and there, so I'll do those, like this one. The last big thing I made was my own blanket. I made somebody a Dallas Cowboys themed shawl for the winter time. I made that in the summer last year. That turned out pretty nice. Okay, also I'm starting my pre-med journey. I want to document it. I don't know how to start, and I don't know if I should make like a whole other channel for it or kind of turn this crochet channel into that, because you guys are clearly just looking for tutorials, and that's great, but I also want to expand and do like sit down videos and stuff. So I mean, please comment below if you are willing to watch that. Maybe I should start a whole other channel, but that means I'd have to be really consistent with it, and I'm not sure how dedicated I am to it yet. But point is, I'm starting that journey, and whether or not people are gonna watch it, I want to document it. Like whether or not I'm gonna post it, I want to document it. That's actually why I got this camera in the first place. This was gonna be my vlogging camera. I'm not a vlogger, but I wanted something that could take videos, and my other camera couldn't do that, so I bought this one. Of course, I ended up taking mostly pictures with it, but I'm getting into like the videography stuff, as you'll see in these clips. Just let me know, please, in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. There are 1,000 of you sitting down at some point watching these videos, so I know you guys can comment and, you know, leave me some feedback. Alright, now on to the actual tutorial part. I'm going to be using different colors than the ones you've seen me use before because I've already finished that blanket and sent it off, but thankfully I'm making a new one. So you're going to need Bernat blanket yarn, and you're going to need 3 different colors. One is going to be your main color, your secondary color, and your accent color. And then of course you're going to need your crochet hook. I'm using size, what is that? Focus. Size 9mm, and of course some scissors. Alright, so we're going to start out with a slip knot, and for this video I'm going to chain 12. For your blanket, depending on how big you want it, you can chain 150, which is what the original pattern calls for. For my blankets, I try to make them about a full size or a queen size. The last time I did not count at all. I just measured it against my arms, my arm width. So it's totally up to you, but just make sure you end with an even number of chains. So you're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and then you're going to chain 1. This chain 1 is going to create a gap when we skip the next chain and we single crochet into the following chain. So your next single crochet is going to go into the 4th chain from your hook when you started out. Then you're going to chain 1 again, skip, and go into the next chain. And you're just going to do that until you get to the end. and you don't want to have any chains left over. That's why we want to make it an even number when we start with our base chain. But if you do have one left over, it's totally fine. Just ignore that, and we're going to work it back into the blanket when we do our border. I've done it before. It's not ideal, but it works. You can hardly tell. So now we're at the end, and we're going to chain one and turn our work. So now you're going to single crochet, into the very first stitch closest to where you just turned your work. And then you're going to see what is the stitch that you have next. So because we have a gap, we have a chain space, we're going to single crochet straight into that, and then we're going to chain one. And then you're going to skip the next stitch, which is our single crochet from the last row, and you're going to single crochet into the next chain space and chain one again. So what you're on the lookout for are your chain spaces, not your single crochets. And we're just going to be repeating this pattern for the whole blanket. What you really need to be on the lookout for as well is what stitch you start out with and what stitch you're ending with. So here we have a chain space, and then we have our final stitch in the row. You're going to single crochet into the chain space and then do a single crochet into the final stitch, and then you're going to chain one and turn. Do not make any gaps where they're not necessary. So you turned our work, you're going to single crochet into the first stitch, and then you're going to chain one and find your next chain space and single crochet into that. So whereas last row we started with a chain space, this time we started with a chain one. So it alternates ideally. Again, if you have made any mistakes thus far after you've chained your whole 200 plus base chain, it's totally fine if you have a mistake. It's easier to just ignore it or work with it as you go than to pull out all those chains and start over again. Usually I will just kind of finesse it and make sure that I'm ending the way I need to or picking back up the way I need to, but you kind of just have to feel it out. Here we're going to be adding our next color, and I'm going to show you how I switch colors when I'm doing this blanket. So I will take out the last kind of stitch that I made and insert the next color so that it's more seamless and it doesn't just start abruptly on top of the row. I'm gonna tie the ends as I go along. Usually I tie it twice, but once is fine because when we're doing the border, it's gonna really reinforce that stitching, and you won't really have to worry about your ends. I'm just gonna cut this off, even though it's a swatch. Did I cut it off here? Yes, I did. It's totally up to you. You can keep it there as well if you're not comfortable or confident yet with where you want to change your colors. So we chained one, and then we turn the work just like we would if we had kept the green color. And what I like to do is work these ends into my next row. So I'm just gonna single crochet over the ends. I think it's better if you single crochet over the one color that's on the bottom and maybe leave out the next color, because actually just choose one of the ends, because usually you'll kind of see it when you're going along with your blanket. It's totally up to you how neat you want to make it. Really it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, for right now we're just going to be working our tail ends into the next row, and we're just continuing this pattern of locating our chain spaces and doing single crochets into there and chaining one. And we're just keeping in mind how we end the row, either with a chain space or just immediately 2 single crochets. And yeah, that's really all you have to be on the lookout for. And again, if you make a mistake, you can definitely start over if you're trying to practice with a swatch like I am. But when it's so many stitches that you've started out with, and it's long rows, I would suggest just figuring it out and fixing, like adding a stitch here or taking out a stitch there. It'll make you much more, you know, much less frustrated in the end, and the blanket will still be just as beautiful. So here I want to show you how I start the border. So with the main color, I usually do the borders with the main color, and right here that's going to be green. So I'm gonna show one more row of green so that I can show you the seamless transition into the border instead of just with white. So here you see I just attached the green right there, and I'm going to chain one and turn the work. So I always like to attach the color before I turn and before I end that row. Like I'm kind of taking out the last little bit of that stitch and adding the new color so that it looks like you can't even tell. So we turned. Let's go over the pattern one more time. We're going to single crochet into that next stitch immediately, and we see we have a single crochet from the previous row, so we're going to chain one and we're going to single crochet into the chain space, and we're going to keep doing that until the end. You can use this time to just watch the video if you're more of a visual learner than listening to me, because I might sound confusing, admittedly. But yeah, we're almost there. So we chained one into that, single crocheted into that space. We're going to chain one and go into the very last stitch with one single crochet. Now I'm just going to chain one, and I'm going to go seemingly backwards instead of continuing with the row as we usually would. So I'm going to go back and go straight into the first space that I feel. It's not a proper chain space and it doesn't feel like a proper stitch, but pretty much wherever you feel a hole, just single crochet into that. That's how I do my borders. Don't worry so much about the tails, but definitely work them in where you feel like you can. Scissors are your best friend when it comes to ending the blanket, so really don't worry about it, but just make sure that your tails are secure and that you feel confident that they're not gonna, come out or anything like that. They shouldn't, because this yarn is actually very tough when it comes to tying or knotting anything. So we're gonna reach the corner and we're gonna single crochet 3 into that corner just to make it a nice turn and a nice rounded edge, and then we're gonna continue single crocheting wherever we feel any spaces. When you hit your base chain, your bottom foundation row, whatever you want to call it, it seems like you should make your single crochets much larger, like you should just go straight into the big gaps that you feel, and you can do that, but I find that it makes much bigger holes at the bottom than there needs to be. So I try and keep up with exactly where that single crochet or that chain is, and you'll know what I mean when you get there, but it's totally up to you. I just feel like I want to minimize the size of the holes as much as I can. I wish I knew how to not make the foundation chain like that, but I think that's just the nature of it being a foundation chain. It's so much looser than the rest of the stitches, but it's totally fine. Just have your single crochets, get to the corner, do 3 single crochets like you did at the last one, and that's how you're going to turn. Make a nice rounded edge, and then you're going to go back into the next side, go into the next side, and again find any space that you can. I really don't, if you couldn't tell already, I don't overthink anything when it comes to a blanket because it's so large and it's so fluffy. I feel like anything goes. As long as you have your pattern that you like and you have your basic stitches, you have the, you know, the overall shape of the blanket, no one can tell anyway. It's just so fluffy. It hides a lot of flaws. Not saying that you don't want your works to be as perfect as it can be, but it's just, don't stress too much about it. This is not like a perfectionist kind of thing. This is really like relaxing for you and relaxing for whoever's gonna get the blanket once they're actually using it. Yeah. So now we've gotten back to the top, and we're going to finish that top row the same way not the same way. We're gonna actually single crochet into every single space. So all those single crochets that you were skipping, you're gonna put a single crochet into those, and you're just gonna finish off that top row, close it off, and once we get to the end, just make sure you have 3 single crochets in the corners, in that last corner as you did the other 3 corners. So whether you need to single crochet 2 and then slip stitch to the last chain in the row, or if you started with 2 in the corner as a seasoned crocheter, just single crochet 1 and then slip stitch. You'll see me struggling to find where that even is, but yeah, after that you're pretty much done. You got yourself a blanket, or at least a blanket swatch, and yep, you can see how fluffy it is. All your colors will shine through beautifully. You have seamless color changes, and yeah, you're all set to go. It's just really nice. It's a really nice, easy pattern to follow. I recommend. And like I said, your scissors are your best friend, so you just go in wherever you can, snip all those edges and tails, and no one will be the wiser. Here are some pictures from the last blanket that I made. It is finished and sent off to Florida to be enjoyed by whoever ordered it. Yeah, it's giving McDonald's ketchup and mustard.